Hey everyone, this is Ella, and this is my proof of concept presentation for There Once. The Google Slides document of this is hooked up with links, so please click images or links in the document for more information other than what I describe for my own purposes here. So, There Once is the story of Rena, whose fear of her past and its effects on her future cause her to experience a rather unique mental breakdown. A first-generation Filipino-American, Rena grows up in the care of her mother Monica and grandmother Inez, who moved to America right before Rena is born. Though they live in a neighborhood with other Filipino immigrants, the strangeness of a new country and the loneliness for her old one affect the elderly Inez most, and she imbues her granddaughter with a fascination for the tales and magic of the Philippines. When Rena starts school, she inadvertently disturbs her new classmates with a drawing of the boogeyman-like spirit called Agta. They cruelly mock and ostracize her for being childish and strange, giving her her own taste of shame and loneliness. As a result, Rena grows up shunning her wild imaginative tendencies and anything else that makes her stand out too much, like her Filipino heritage. She moves away from home to become an architect because she finds solace in building things. It provides her with a creative outlet that thrives on controlled, straightforward rules and regulations, the approval of her peers and superiors, and an end product that will bear her mark for years to come. She thinks she is happy, poised to win an important private commission for her company that will guarantee her the success and stability she craves. When she learns of her grandmother's sudden death, her broken heart compels her to change her design for the commission as a tribute without consulting her team, and her choices cost them the commission. Once again finding herself ashamed and rejected, she spirals into a depression and suddenly has a terrible vision of Agta mocking her, and she flees to her childhood home for her grandmother's funeral, seeking comfort and closure as she tries to regain her footing. Once there, however, her mental stability seems instead to decline further as she is visited by more visions. These littles, as she begins to call them, seem to be the spirits of certain special memories, reanimated by Rena's distress and return home. They, along with Rena's neighbors, the McCalls, help Rena to find new meaning and happiness in the memories that she thought were harmful. Slowly she whittles away at her fear and inhibition, rediscovering wonders shown by each little with the same childlike awe as young Lewis and Leo McCall. The boys also love a nearby abandoned cottage in which Rena used to play with her grandmother and imaginary friends as a child, and when Agta threatens to burn it down with them inside, Rena finally confronts Agta to save them and realizes that her real duty is to preserve what she was trying to escape from. With the McCall, she renovates the cottage into a community center where the children of the neighborhood can safely play and learn to appreciate the culture of their forebears, allowing Rena to honor the memories of her grandmother and leave a truly meaningful legacy for both of them. These are essentially the same from my previous pitch. Creating an immersive experience is appealing to me as a consumer of information, so I am inspired by the memory palace, a tactic dating back to ancient Greece, which allows a person to memorize in sequence by associating the objects being memorized with a well-known physical space. This concept informs the littles and my project installation. With audio narration and targeted lighting with the installation, viewers are guided through the story with purpose and given information verbally that would be otherwise difficult to convey with just the visuals in a set. Lastly, I wanted this project to be a long-awaited opportunity for me to explore some of my own Filipino heritage. On the right is one of the books of Filipino legends my mother bought for me as a child that I still think of and have to this day, along with the two others from this beautifully illustrated series. I am a voracious fairy tale reader and obsessed with Greco-Roman mythology, but had never thought about the history of my own family's country. These stories are similar to Kipling's Just So stories, giving context to landmarks, traditions, plants, and wildlife by attaching them to morally educational stories. These resources were covered in my previous pitch and also still apply. They show some of my illustration style, inspiration for the littles, and styles of immersive, interactive set design. These two shows I saw in August, and both heavily influenced my new direction for the visuals of this project. On the left now is British theater company 1927's Golem production, mixing illustrated and animated projection coupled with live actors and music. On the right is BRC Entertainment's Soul of Nashville informative immersion exhibit, telling visitors to Nashville's famed Ryman Auditorium about its history, using animation and projection mapping onto walls and fake picture frames. My story would be told through the audience literally stepping into Rena's spaces, physical and mental, as they hear her narrate via headset or handheld audio guide. Because she is a builder who is experiencing a change in heart and outlook, I love the idea of the audience hearing her tell her own story, seeing what she is seeing, and being guided by her. The room set I would build has three areas, in 3 of the room's corners. Each space would not only correspond to Rena's physical location, but also her mental state. This mock-up is currently imagined in the exterior space where Walter Tyler's barn was set up. One enters through the 4th corner of the room and directly approaches Rena's workspace at the architecture firm. It is austere but covered with drawings and plans, dry technical textbooks, and no indication of Rena as a person whatsoever. On the desk would be the model that costs her company the commission and starts her spiral out and back into control. As the viewer moves to the right, they encounter cardboard storage boxes and a bookshelf, indicating her childhood home, where she explores her late grandmother's belongings and finds relics of her forgotten, once happy childhood. Fantastical artwork, houseplants, colorful fabrics and art supplies, and family photo albums can be found here. To the right again of this is the revamped cottage and community center at the end of the story, where Rena has found her new and more fulfilling purpose. It is colorful, whimsical, littered with Filipino artwork, figurines, toys, and books, and indicative of her now celebrating and sharing her culture instead of ignoring it. These are some sketches of 3 of the littles. I was especially excited about the materials from which these designs drew inspiration, which is why I would love to create maquettes for the exhibit. Once placed in the scene where Rena reconnects with the objects or concept they symbolize, to someone standing in the room it would be like they were sharing Rena's visions. I do not plan to show Rena or any of the human characters within my story, which I think helps the audience envision themselves within the story. All littles would have a maquette except Agta, who I would like to render via projection mapping onto the bare walls. I want to keep him separate and flexible since he is the most insidious and alien of the littles and appears at multiple points to worry Rena. Projection could also help spotlight the areas in maquettes, allow me to do some small animations of littles, and perhaps the cottage fire, and if I have frames on the walls, I could also project onto those and change their insides at will. By using ready-made furniture and items for most of the set, I can focus on the audio narration and bringing to life my favorite parts of this project, the littles. I plan to adapt this setup onto the project's website as well, for the piece to exist and continue to be experienced outside of the program and thesis exhibit. Viewers would be able to see the room and items within it either through 3D recreation, drawings, or photographs, and click on items to trigger the narration and animations. I would also publish additional behind-the-scenes content, like actual Filipino traditions and myths that inspired me, a glossary, closer looks at some of the set itself, like the maquettes and drawings, etc., online. I will be working with Eric Malinsky, radio reporter, host, and creator of the Imaginary Worlds podcast. I was drawn to the variety of subjects covered in his podcast, as well as his writing and reporting style. He will be a great asset in terms of developing my writing overall, my character's voice, and with the actual audio recording process. As a former storyboard artist and cartoonist, he can also consider the visual aspect of my project, but I will also be consulting illustrator Janet Lee for her input, and hopefully Ed's friends the Fords for their projection and lighting advice. In putting together the actual set and walls, I have recruited my friend Steven and could also reach out to family friend Loy Arsenas for another Filipino creative's input on the installation. To create the projections, simple looping animations, and any illustration, I'd be using my standard toolbox of Photoshop, Illustrator, Procreate app for iPad Pro, and After Effects. These assets could be used on the website version of my project as well. VPT7 is a free projection mapping design software I learned about from some channels on YouTube that is within my reach for creating the level of production I'm currently envisioning within the installation. For sound, I'm not sure what my mentor Eric will suggest, but in the past I have used Audacity, Premiere, and Audition for recording and editing, like for no one. The web version of the project and any other related information and media will live on thereonce.com. I will also be posting process and updates on social media. Twitter and Instagram will be my favorite platforms, but perhaps closer to the exhibit I might do Facebook. Not much on this has changed, though I do recognize that because of the scope of my project, I do need to be working on visuals and writing simultaneously, meaning throughout the fall as well as spring semesters, to have everything completed by April. I think starting sound and visuals if I can in October or November will be good, once I see how the writing is going and work more with Eric. And that is it. Thank you for your time. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.